Top 10 Most Corrupt Countries in the World in 2022. Not all governments operate with the best interests of their citizens as the top priority. People in power can have a hard time resisting the temptation to use that power for their own gain, and many public servants in many countries have been caught up in political scandals and corruption. In fact, some countries have such a history of corruption that it has caused political unrest between the country's government and its citizens. Transparency International, the non-governmental organization based in Germany, defines corruption as the misuse of public power for private benefit. The organization's most recent version of its Corruption Perceptions Index also states that the failure to significantly control corruption is fueling a global crisis in democracy. Here are the top 10 most corrupt countries in the world in 2022. Number 10. Burundi. CPI Index score, 19. Burundi is another African country to have made it to the list of 25 most corrupt countries in the world. Burundi is known for widespread corruption in its society as well as the government. Burundi's lack of economic freedom has left its small economy in the hands of a small group of elites. According to the International Crisis Group, the monopolization of public and private resources risks derailing the peace-building process based on development and economic growth bolstered by efficient state machinery and driven by foreign investment. Number 9. Libya. CPI Index score, 17. Libya is a war-torn country in Africa which saw the overthrow of the dictatorial regime during the Arab Spring, following which, the country was caught in a civil war with different factions controlling different parts of the country. The turmoil has caused corruption to soar in a country that already had very weak political institutions. Major types of corruption involve the smuggling of oil on the black market by public officials and bribery for the settlement of judicial cases among others. According to GON Integrity, all sectors in the Libyan economy suffer from widespread corruption. However, the public procurement sector and the oil industry are among the most affected. Bribery and favoritism are common practices in all sectors, and companies may struggle with unfair competition from state-owned businesses, which also dominate the local market. Corruption was rampant under Gaddafi's rule, and the situation only worsened in the post-revolution period. Number 8. Equatorial Guinea. CPI Index score, 17. Equatorial Guinea is practically ruled by a powerful oligarchy in an authoritarian way, opening the floodgates of corruption. Political corruption in Equatorial Guinea is high by world standards and considered among the worst countries on earth. It has been described as an almost perfect kleptocracy. Here the scale of systemic corruption and the ruler's indifference toward the people's welfare places the country at the bottom of every major governance indicator or ranking. They are even placed below other nations with similar per capita GDPs. The government is controlled by a limited group of powerful individuals who divert most of the country's revenues into their own clandestine bank accounts in other nations. This country is among the most corrupt nations in the world. The high level of corruption has left the majority of its citizens poor even though it is a rich country. Number 7. Yemen. CPI Index score, 16. Yemen, officially called the Republic of Yemen, is a country located in the Arabian Peninsula. Yemen is widely regarded as a failed state due to the absolutely catastrophic condition the country is in due to ongoing civil strife, looming water shortage, and most importantly, rampant corruption. Corruption is crippling the already moribund Yemeni economy, where small business owners are unable to expand or often operate because of arbitrarily imposed fines they are frequently charged by police officers and local officials. Yemen's former president Ali Abdullah Saleh used a huge system of patronage involving everything from diesel allocations to state contracts to benefit the small number of elites that helped keep his government in power. This has exposed the country to widespread extortion, racketeering, and bribery, making it one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Number 6. North Korea. CPI Index score, 16. North Korea, officially called the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, is a country in the Far East of Asia. It is ruled by a dictatorial totalitarian regime with people having little to no access to the outside world. The public information by citizens is also nearly impossible to access, which opens the doors for widespread corruption. North Korea's closed economy and opaque system of government have led to systematic corruption and public sector bribery. There is little foreign investment in North Korea, and the country is plagued by structural corruption in its political and bureaucratic system since the early 1990s, when Stalinist North Korea collapsed. One of the world's last remaining communist nations, North Korea is plagued with food and basic goods shortages. Number 5. Afghanistan. CPI Index score, 16. Afghanistan is located in South-Central Asia. The country has been experiencing violent conflict for 40 years. Afghanistan has ranked within the top 10 of international corruption lists for years. International aid groups have said that Afghanistan's endemic corruption constitutes one of the most serious obstacles to the effective use of international aid. International aid accounts for about 90% of the Afghani economy, but each week tens of millions of dollars are packed into suitcases or boxes and loaded onto planes leaving Kabul International Airport for destinations like Dubai Capital Flight. Number 4. Venezuela. CPI Index Score, 14. Venezuela is a socialist country located in South America. Corruption is highly institutionalized and normalized in the country due to the impunity afforded by the power dynamics in the country. The major forms of corruption in the country includes public funds embezzlement, patronage, nepotism, and bribery in Venezuela. Number 3. Syria. CPI Index Score, 13. Nearly 2.5 years into Syria's civil war, regional experts are still trying to determine where the funds supporting both the rebels and the Syrian government are stemming from. Earlier this year, French prosecutors opened a preliminary investigation into whether an uncle of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad illegally acquired millions of dollars of assets in France. Transparency International was part of a case filed alleging corruption, money laundering, embezzlement of public funds and misuse of corporate assets by Rafat al-Assad, a former military commander. The major cause of widespread corruption in Syria is a dictatorship. A system of government that does not allow adequate freedom for checks and balances. It stifles press freedom, thereby creating protection for those in power to loot public funds. Number 2. Somalia. CPI Index Score, 13. The sub-Saharan African country is bedridden with corruption that is ravaging every aspect of its existence. Compounded by conflict and civil war, which resulted in the destabilization of government, Somalia has been reeling at the mercy of corruption. Currently, it is weakening its state-building efforts, undermining democracy, human rights, and rule of law. In addition, it is raising rates of crimes and terrorism. To make things worse, state actors do not show enough commitment to quell corruption. Somalia is the second most corrupt country in the world on this list. Number 1. South Sudan. CPI Index Score, 11. South Sudan, not to be confused with Sudan, is another African country to make it to the list of the 10 most corrupt countries in the world. The U4 Anti-Corruption Resource Center report highlights the 4 main types of corruption in the country, namely, political corruption, patronage, embezzlement, and bureaucratic corruption. South Sudan may have only become a country in 2011, but officials have been accused of the same graft charges as before. South Sudan produces 500,000 barrels of oil per day. But of the over $10 billion collected in oil revenues, $4 billion has been lost due to public sector corruption. So there you have it. We hope you enjoyed our list of top 10 most corrupt countries in the world in 2022. Please like, share, subscribe and click the bell button to be the first to get our latest content. Don't forget to share on social media. Thanks for watching.